Welcome back to Novel Nomad and welcome to Top 5 Wednesday. Today I'll be discussing the 5 books that I am thankful for, and this could be anything. This is a really interesting and personal topic to actually discuss with you today, so I hope you enjoy. And I think it is being discussed this week in lead up to Thanksgiving Day, which is being celebrated this week in the US. First book that I am utterly thankful that I discovered and read and loved was Tamora Pierce, Wild Magic. This was my very first foray into fantasy, actual fantasy novel, and I read this I think when I was about 7, and it basically follows Dane, who is trying to run away from her past in a way. Many horrible things have happened to her, and she wants to find a job and move on with her life, and she finds a job with Queen's Riders for the Queen of Tortle, and is actually discovered to hold a huge store of magic power, which is called wild magic, which is incredibly rare, in which she's able to communicate with animals. So this was incredibly fascinating because I was on a huge animal binge when I was younger. The whole wanting to be a vet was very much real for me. So this was absolutely fantastic for me when I was younger. So I always found Dane an absolutely fascinating character because I wanted to have that discovery and that self-possession for myself. And Dane was a really incredibly strong character, so the reason why I'm thankful for this book mainly is because Tamora Pierce introduced me to a world where girls have agency, they have power, they are supported by a huge range of people, and they can change their life, change their future, and they can take control for themselves. So it was an absolutely fantastic introduction to this wonderful world of fantasy and feminist ideals. The second book I am very much thankful for is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I'm sure I don't need to describe the plot of Pride and Prejudice. It is a fairly well-known and famous plot with Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy. But I have to admit I was absolutely in love with this book and TV series when I was introduced to it when I was about 11. And it always brings back wonderful memories of sharing time with my mum and having great laughs, and how very much unlike she is to Mrs. Bennet. She does not nag like that. She's incredibly supportive in all my independent endeavours and ideas, and what I just love is that it really introduced me into the world of classics, and how I just had this huge burgeoning of novels that I was just awakened to after I read this book, and I have not looked back. I do love my classics. The third book I am very much thankful for is this gorgeous gothic classic, and that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. So yet again, I probably don't need to describe the plot, although it is fairly tainted by its pop culture adaptations. Frankenstein to me has always been about questioning humanity and humanity's reactions to people who are different, people who defy the norm, and people who come from outside of what is socially acceptable. So what I'm thankful for this book having opened my eyes to is that my own privileges should not cloud my vision to other people's experiences in life, and that if someone is different, that doesn't mean they're wrong, does not mean that I should reject them, that people should be accepted for their differences and even loved because of them. The fourth book I am thankful to have read is a very personal one for me, and that is Pelican, which is a set of poems by Emily O'Neill. She wrote these after the death of her father, who she was very close to, and I read this book when I was grieving for the loss of my grandparents, who I was very close to. And this connection of family loss and these very heavily emotive poems about going through and understanding your own grief and visualizing it and really bringing it out, not trying to smother it down, very much helped me understand my own sense of grief, and made me entirely sympathetic to myself. I didn't want to hide so much. It made me want to discuss my grief and also offer that comfort to others. So this book was very much an eye-opening comfort to me, but it always has remained incredibly special because I could understand the level of grief that Emily O'Neill was going through when she wrote these poems. So the last book I am thankful for, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and this is about 2 warring magicians who train up their proteges to continue the battle against each other, but when their proteges break away from their masters and they continue the battle within the realm of the night circus, all they manage to find is beauty and love. So I was incredibly thankful to have this book with me when I was traveling around Europe by myself for upwards of 2 months, and it was a great comfort, but it also is a great traveling book. You can see it's slightly battered and a bit stiff, but I utterly loved this book because it was a slow read, and it actually really made me focus in on the magic of the circus and the tastes and experiences in those amazing second person narrative passages. It made my traveling experience of Europe to focus very much in the now, in the sensations, in the places, and find the magic that was surrounding me on that journey. And it has continued to my everyday life, because I do find the magic in the now, and I do find magic in everyday things. So it was an absolutely fantastic book that opened my eyes and warmed my heart. So I hope you enjoyed this Top 5 Wednesday. Tell me what books you're thankful to have reading, or tell me what your most favourite thing is for Thanksgiving Day if you are in the US, and I'll see you next time. Bye!